Oh, this is slippery stuff. Happy Wednesday. We have made it to hump day here on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. It's very rare when I will change things up to kick off a show from the standpoint of usually I know the night before what I'm going to talk about to start any show. But I saw this right before I hopped on the air, and I said, oh, this is good. This is sneaky stuff from Kansas City, Missouri, most notably the mayor, Quinton Lucas. Matt Fleener, I got to reach out to Matt this morning because he had this report that Mayor Lucas has pitched annexing Loch Lloyd while tying his proposal directly to the hotly contested potential landfill site a few miles away. So Loch Lloyd, one of the most exclusive communities in the Kansas City area, got the golf course. I played that golf course once. Nice, very nice golf course. Very beautiful homes in there. Mahomes lives over there. It's a very nice community. It is its own village. It is incorporated. It has been as of September 2003, but it's not part of Kansas City or Raymore, or it shares a zip code with Belton, but it's its own incorporated community. Well, Quinton Lucas wants to annex Loch Lloyd. I'm sure that's going to go over well in Loch Lloyd this morning. Oh, my goodness. So he sent a letter to Cass County, the commissioners there in Cass County, saying that he would like to annex Loch Lloyd, and then he could help more with infrastructure improvements and development in that part of Cass County. If Kansas City would then give up land near Raymore around the site of a proposed 580-acre landfill. So we've told you about the drama around this landfill proposal in South KC. A lot of homeowners in the area want no part of it. Understandably so, by the way. The mayor hasn't really gotten too involved in the politics of it, but now he's trying to make a deal. He's trying to say, sure, I'll give you, Cass County, some of the land near Raymore around the site of a proposed 580-acre landfill. And in turn, you give me Loch Lloyd. You give me one of the most exclusive communities in the area, so I could, soak the taxpayers down there because, geez, we need all the money we can get our hands on here in Kansas City. I can't imagine that is going over well in Loch Lloyd this morning after Matt Fleener's reporting. I know that, secretly Quinton Lucas wants Patrick Mahomes to be, one of his own. He wants him to be a resident of his city. He's technically not right now as a Loch Lloyd guy. But you have got, oh, my goodness, this is just sneaky political mumbo-jumbo, John.
Never has been a land deal since I rooked my younger brother into trading Park Place for Reading Railroad in the Monopoly game back in 1970. Hey, I'll trade you a dump for a golf course.
Yeah. I'll trade you this land that no one wants that, they're trying to put a landfill on. And in exchange, you give me Loch Lloyd. I mean, geez, that's Louisiana Purchase-esque screw job is what that is. Holy cow. So Matt Fleener had this reporting last night on Channel 9 KMBC, and here's about a minute of that report from Matt Fleener.
Back in June, Raymore city leaders pitched Mayor Lucas on absorbing this 160-acre plot. That change would put the property in Raymore city limits, triggering a portion of state law that could help block a proposed landfill from being built along 150 highway. But Lucas's proposal to take on Loch Lloyd in return isn't sitting well with leaders in Cass County.
The notion that we would pit one group of our citizens against another group of our citizens is just ridiculous. It doesn't really portend for good governance or good faith.
I don't think it necessarily pits a group of residents against each other. I think it says one thing that I have said in past meetings, including with leadership in Raymore, which is that we do remain interested in our potential growth, our potential investment in South Kansas City.
Commissioner Johnson says he and his neighbors just want the landfill stopped from coming near their homes.
What are you prepared to do to end the threat to my constituents and his constituents today.
What are you prepared to do to stop this landfill from coming in?
I think we're going to make sure that we follow all the laws and fair due process in connection with any types of requests that come to us.
That is Matt Fleener, KMBC Channel 9, on this report last night. Mayor Lucas trying to swap empty land near a proposed landfill for Loch freaking Lloyd. By the way, Loch Lloyd, median listing home price in Loch Lloyd last month, $1.2 million. That is up 4% year over year. Went on Zillow. They got some nice empty lots. Half an acre empty lot is for sale for $250,000. Once again, that's an empty lot. You then got to build the house on top of that. Some other beautiful properties, south part of Loch Lloyd. Get a couple acres for $385,000. There's only a couple houses for sale. 4-bed, 3-bath, $1.249 million. 5,000 square foot home here for $1.05 million. And, if you haven't been out to Loch Lloyd, it's just right over the Missouri side of the state line. Basically due east of 159th and Mission Road. I mean, it's beautiful down there if you haven't been through. Great golf, great homes, everything else. It is a top-notch community here in the Kansas City area. And the mayor's like, we'll just we'll take, we'll take Loch Lloyd off your hands, Cass County. You guys let us take over there at Loch Lloyd.
Of course, it was all cornfields when I was a kid. My scout troop actually camped out on that property.
Really?
Out where that is now.
It's funny how that works, right? Here we are now all those years later, and it's one of the most desirable communities in Kansas City. Now, when it comes to annexing Loch Lloyd, the mayor who wrote this letter to Cass County said he understands the fiscal impact to Cass County residents if they were to become new Kansas City residents. And he says, we would be willing to evaluate the availability of freedom from certain Kansas City tax liability, implying to me that the mayor of Kansas City would basically allow those who are Loch Lloyd residents and may not work in Kansas City, Missouri, to potentially avoid the earnings tax, the 1% earnings tax. Geez, I mean, and that's me reading into the letter a little bit, but if that's the case, because I can't think what other tax liability they would be able to get them out from under, if he's basically saying, if Loch Lloyd comes into Kansas City, Missouri, we'll allow them to, skip on the whole 1 cent, not 1 cent sales tax, but the earnings tax, which is also 1% of your income. Well, that tells you all you need to know deep down about how popular the earnings tax really is. And by the way, while middle class and working Kansas Cityans still have to pay the earnings tax, are we potentially considering not requiring Loch Lloyd residents to pay the earnings tax if you were to make them Kansas City, Missouri residents? Boy, that is awfully rich stuff. It's admitting, by the way, that people don't like taxes. That's what that's admitting, which is nothing new to most of us.
Talk about a bombshell.
But the politicians, they love crowing about how popular this earnings tax is in Kansas City. But now, if push comes to shove when it comes to Loch Lloyd annexation, it's like, maybe we'll allow you to skip out on something like the earnings tax. Unbelievable. I got to reach out to Matt Fleener, see if he can hop on last minute this morning, because this is too rich.
Maybe you can get your beachfront property in the deal, get a three-way thing going.
Oh, my gosh. Mayor Quentin Lucas. I appreciate the shamelessness, I guess, in willing to say, hey, I'll give you 160 acres no one wants near a proposed landfill, and you give me Loch Lloyd. I mean, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. 913-408-7957 as we get it rolling on a Wednesday post-Halloween morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome in. Coming up, I'll get to you, but also I want to touch on something that some of you will insist is incredibly boring. But I'm here to tell you it's not. I'll explain next on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. A little chilly as we get this Wednesday morning started here on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome in. It was a cold one last night. with the trick-or-treaters. Thank goodness I was there as a nutcracker, so, I had a big old hat on my head to keep my ears warm. I was excited about that. Kind of worked out well. And then, of course, a lot of you I know, Mark was telling me during the break that he was getting yelled at by his wife because his youngest daughter didn't have the proper gloves on, so she was getting cold after 2 hours of trick-or-treating. So such is life, right? Need your mic on there, Mark.
My bad. Yeah, I should have done better as a dad last night.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right.
It happens. We all have that dad moment, when getting berated because you don't have the right gloves on the kid, but such is life. It was cool, though. I mean, it was, about 33 degrees where I live when we started last night. The wind did die down, so that's a good thing as we got the trick-or-treating started. And we were only out for probably 45 minutes or so. I mean, it felt like 2 hours when you got two little kids, but it was not all that long. 913-408-7957. As we just told you to start the show about this letter that Quentin Lucas wrote to Cass County saying, hey, we'll take Loch Lloyd off your hands in exchange for 160 acres that no one wants, that they want to build a landfill near. Sure, that seems like an even swap. I mean, I'm trying to think of an equivalent trade, like one of the worst trades in sports history. This would be that in a nutshell. But, hey, I guess, when you ask anything, the worst you can say is no, right? 913-408-7957. Mike's in Kansas City. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, a few years ago, Stillwell was going to be incorporated by Overland Park, and the people of Stillwell fought it. And there are a lot of very wealthy people in Stillwell, billionaires actually, and they ended up fighting in Stillwell about its own incorporated city. And this is what this kind of reminds me of. But could you imagine what the woke fascists on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council would do if they got all those rich people on Loch Lloyd? Quentin Lucas is going to give them something special, and they're going to say, oh, how dare you, cater to the rich. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's a great point, too. He can say, oh, I'll absolve them from having to pay the earnings tax, and every politician at City Hall, especially the woke ones, would go nuts. And by the way, I would actually support them in saying, no, you cannot give special tax breaks to people and bail them out of the earnings tax for whatever reason you want. I would actually agree with them on that.
And they're going to be fighting you just like Stillwell did. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to go anywhere, they probably will go to Belton rather than Kansas City. Mm-hmm. The Kansas City the politics are so corrupt. Nobody want to be annexed by them. In fact, up north, they're talking about de-annexation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, believe it or not. So anyway,
they are. I'm sure many up north would like that from Kansas City. Thank you very much, Mike. Carl is in Independence. What's up, Carl?
Hi, Pete. Hey, a couple of years ago, my niece was looking for a venue to hold her wedding, and she ended up in Loch Lloyd. Granted, it's ritzy rich and very expensive.
Were you allowed to go, Carl?
What now?
Were you allowed to go?
I had to sit in the back.
All right, well done, Carl. Well done.
But the tax structure, the city taxes were so high that it saved her thousands of dollars to go to the ritzy rich place out in Loch Lloyd. So the taxes do make a difference.
So where was she looking at along with Loch Lloyd? Loch Lloyd and somewhere in Kansas City?
Kansas City. Okay. All over any place you could find a venue. She ended up in Loch Lloyd because it was cheaper.
Wow.
Because of the taxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about that? So she's looking at a lot of nice venues in Kansas City and around the area, but specifically in Kansas City.
She could think of.
And it was cheaper to get married in Loch Lloyd than in Kansas City, in part because of whatever the taxes were on the deal.
In part, directly because of the taxes.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Thank you, Carl. That's not surprising, but good stuff. Mike's in Gardner. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Pete. Morning. Hey, I live outside of Kansas City, but I have an office in Kansas City, and that's been that way for a while. But I still pay Kansas City taxes because that's where my earnings are from. So if you've got Kansas City Royals or Chiefs or anybody that lives out there their earnings are in Kansas City, they're still going to be paying those taxes.
That's a good point. I don't know how it works, though, when you're a professional ball player. Like, if half of your earnings are in Kansas City and the other half are obviously in other cities and other states,
That's correct.
I'm not sure how that works.
3 other states,
right?
And it's always a fight with Kansas City earnings taxes. I'm just telling you up front.
Yep. No, but you are right. If you're a Royals or a Chiefs player out in Loch Lloyd, you still have to pay some earnings tax. But they may be able, the city may be able, to get their, dirty hands on all of your earnings versus only half.
Well, it happens even to us that don't live in Kansas City. My main house is in another state altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but you work in Kansas City, so you got to pay that earnings tax.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of my offices.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Thanks for that 100,000 watts.
You bet, man. Enjoy it on 95.7 FM. I know it's loud and clear down there in Gardner now.
All right. Take care.
See you later. Yeah, we are sounding good out in Gardner. I know that much. A community we couldn't really get into. Heck, there were many of you in Olathe who were like, I can't pick you up on 710. I'm like, I know. We're working on it. We've been working on this for a long time now. And here we are. Yes, now rocking and rolling on 100,000 watts. 95.7 FM. Hit that preset on your radio dial as you get the morning started. In case you missed the news 3 weeks ago tomorrow, that, yes, we are now broadcasting on 95.7 FM. That's the best way to listen to us every day here on KCMO Talk Radio. On the text line, 913-408-7957. Pete, I'm sure the Kansas City, Missouri politicians would insist on getting affordable housing in Loch Lloyd. That is so true. I am glad you brought that up on the text line. That would be, you know what? That would be the first thing that some of these politicians would go for. Well, it's about time we built some affordable housing apartments there in Loch Lloyd. Maybe Mahomes is looking for a new neighbor out that way. Maybe we can get some affordable housing overlooking the 8th hole on the golf course. I mean, it's only right. Come on. Maybe we could have a nice tent city down there while we're at it. Build a couple of new bridges to get out there and, we're off to the races. You've got to be kidding me. That is such a good point on the text line, though. All right, coming up. Some of you are going to insist it's boring. I promise you it's not. Plus, where are Kansans and Missourians moving to and from? That's next. Where are people moving to and from all over the country, and who is coming here to Kansas and Missouri? We've got some of that data, and I want to share it with you here, and it comes courtesy of the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey. The latest numbers that just came out are for 2022, and here's what we got when it comes to Missouri. Here's a look at the top contributors to Missouri's population in 2022. Kansans moving to Missouri, 22,000 Kansans going across the state line of the Missouri side. No, Travis Kelce's doing the opposite. He's going Missouri to Kansas. And anyway, he'd be in the 2023 numbers, so we'll scratch that. That'll count towards next year's numbers.
Just There'll be the asterisk there. Plus one.
Plus one. Illinois, that's a no-brainer. Illinois moving to Missouri, 21,000. Illinois residents moving to Missouri. Number 3, this is sketchy. Abroad, 18,000. Does that mean illegal immigrants? I'm just asking. I mean, I don't know. It's from the U.S. Census Bureau. And when it just says abroad is number 3 on the list, I don't know. Something tells me that's not, Brits moving into Missouri. I could be crazy, but I don't think that's it.
It may include both of them that did, but the numbers are probably inflated by a particular group, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion.
That pushes abroad up there.
Yes, abroad comes in at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the French just really caught on to what a great place Missouri is, but something tells me that they're not the bulk of the 18,000 abroad moving into Missouri. Number 4 on the list, top contributors to Missouri's population last year. California.
Bad hombres.
Okay. All right. That's always a little sketch, but Californians coming to Missouri, 12,000 of them. And we love you here. We just want you to love Missouri for what it is and not try to Californicate. Would that be the way to put it? Californicate Missouri. That's all. That's all we're asking for here, John. It's not much.
Somehow I feel like every Californian I've known that lives here let me know that they're from California.
Yeah.
So,
all right, you want a
got them
prize?
accounted for.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know all
Usually
12,000.
Well, in California we had. Oh, okay.
Well, you're here and no one cares. That would be my answer.
Don't work that way here.
I grew up with a kid who actually was from, he had moved into the school district from California, and he was, I think it's like a California thing. They all remind you that they're from California and how great it was.
Yeah.
Now that you say it, I feel like that's the case with Californians. Now I'm going to go off on another tangent.
Yeah, I don't mean to side rail.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
They're all present and accounted for in our lives.
Yes,
that's for sure.
You are right about that. Number 5 on the list of top contributors to Missouri's population last year, Florida. 10,000 Floridians coming into Missouri last year. One red state to another. Maybe, you can call our governor and tell him what a great job your governor is doing and how he should mimic what your former governor has been doing. Just a thought. And then number 6 on the list is Arkansas. 9,500 Arkansas residents moving into Missouri in 2022. So those are the top 6 contributors to Missouri's population in 2022. Now let's go to the Kansas side of the state line. The top contributors to Kansas's population in 2022. Missouri, number 1, 21,000. So that's Missourians going to Kansas. Number 2 on that list, also abroad. I don't like this abroad thing I keep seeing. 11,500 folks from abroad. Top contributors to Kansas population. That is number 2. Number 3, Texas. 7,800 Texans coming up to Kansas. Number 4 on that list, Colorado. 7,400 Colorado residents. Number 5 is Oklahoma. 6,500 Oklahomans skipping over the border. And then number 6 on the list, California, again, 5,500. And I think they're all right here in Johnson County, by the way. Like, they're not going out to Dodge City to hang out.
Right.
You know?
No.
They are coming in. Here's the thing. They're selling their shack in California for $2 million. And then they're like, geez, I pocket $1 million and buy a mansion here for $1 million. Woo, boy, sign me up.
Yeah, or like you say, they're getting their $2 million house, getting the same floor space for $250,000 here.
Yeah,
right?
yes, or that, and then pocket 1.7 mil.
Sure,
right? I mean, that's the other option. They can literally sell their shack, get the same size here for a fourth of the price, and then they're retired. I mean, life is good, I guess, and that's fine. If you want to come here and enjoy our lifestyle in the Kansas City area and root for a real football team instead of being Rams and Chargers fans or whatever you are, that's great. Just leave your California crap in California. That's all we're asking, John.
The other observation I had maybe you're going to get to is it looked like we had about an equal trade on the legal marijuana for sports betting. Right?
That is so true.
It was about 22 to 21,000.
Yeah, each state had about 21,000 Missourians going to Kansas and 22,000 Kansans going to Missouri.
Trading the smoke for the betting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Depending on what your preference is. If you like the sports betting, you move to the Kansas side. If you like your marijuana, you'll move to the Missouri side. So it's about an equal trade. You're right about that. So that's where people are coming from. And I welcome them all here to the Kansas City region. I hope that you have slammed 95.7 as your preset. If you're new to town from California, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, Illinois, wherever you're coming from, we want you to love it like we do here on KCMO. We just want to make sure that if you're coming from a horribly run blue state, California, Illinois, you come here and you appreciate what we have and why we have it. And that's because we have not followed the awful politics and the awful policies of your states. That's all we're asking here. And I don't think it's too much to ask. I hope it's not. Hope you had a great Halloween yesterday. My girls got pretty chilly. By the time we were done, Claire was like, my bones are hurting. So we were, 2 blocks from the house, so I carried her back. But, she's getting kind of big for that. She's going to be 5 in December. So I'm like, I'm walking down the street there with a 5-year-old and, trying to also hold her box of candy or her, trick-or-treat bag. And I'm like, geez.
Charles Dickinson likes seeing it seems.
Yeah.
Nutcracker carrying one of the Sugar Plum fairies.
That's what it was. I'm in my big Nutcracker hat walking down the street with a 50-pound Sugar Plum fairy in my arms. I'm like, geez, I got to hit the gym. This is getting tough. So we did post a photo up on my Instagram page if you want to see me in my ridiculous Nutcracker outfit. That's on my Instagram stories at Pete Mundo. You can see it there. It's also on the Facebook page. But follow us there. That way you can see all the action. And Mark had the greatest Halloween costume of the day. He was Mr. Pfizer. So that's all on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook pages as well, and the Twitter pages. All right, John, who won those Stapleton tickets this morning?
Kara in Kansas City had us on this morning, so she'll be going to this show June 12th at T-Mobile Center. It's Chris Stapleton, and I like Marcus King, great guitar player.
Good deal.
It'll be a good show. We're at the midpoint now in our giveaway.
We are.
We've done it 5 times. We've got 5 more. Your next chance to win coming up at 10:15 with Ray Stevens, and then Thursday and Friday with both Mundo in the Morning and Ray Stevens.
Well done there. Nice read on that one, John. Knocked it out of the park. Let's go, baby. Woo! Happy post-Halloween hangover morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Good news is it's Wednesday, so you're halfway through the week, and we appreciate you making 95.7 FM KCMO part of your morning. So I told you guys probably going to lose me here. Now, some of you are going to be very happy about this, all right? Some of you are going to be doing cartwheels that you're probably going to lose me to another gig. But I'm here to tell you that I think it's very important on this Wednesday morning that I apply for this position. I think it's a great way to further my career, move forward.
Civic-minded?
Yes, it's civic-minded,
okay.
You know. And I think it's time for me to give back. Instead of just being a big mouth, it's time for me to give back. So I think it's best, given the fact that they are looking for applicants, that I apply to be an intern with Sharice Davids. So it seems like the right time for me to make this move, to see if, I can get into the office and apply and, make this a part of my future. And we'll see how the chips fall, but I think this is the right time. I saw this on Tony's Kansas City that Sharice Davids is looking for interns. And considering our local Kansas congresswoman was on the show almost a year ago to the day in the wake of my naked lap that I had to run because she beat Amanda Atkins by double digits in an absolute blowout. I figure, we got a little bit of a connection right now, right? I mean, we got to know each other a little bit, and I figure I can make that move. Now, here's what the description reads for Sharice Davids' internship program. It says they're accepting applications for spring interns January 15th through May 15th. Got to fill out the application by Friday. In D.C., interns' responsibilities will vary. They may be asked to answer phones, research legislation for the member and the legislative staff, attend hearings and briefings, and answer constituent letters and phone calls. Or if you're in the district office here in town, you can connect with people in the community every day. They'll learn about details involved in constituent services, plan and executive outreach events, and assist staff on various projects. So I'm looking at the application here, and, you've got to fill out your name and all that stuff. So I'm looking at this up, and it says here your prefix. Now, I'm already confused, and this might hinder my ability to get the job, get the internship with Sharice Davids. But there's a lot of prefix options, and I don't know what some of them mean. Well, one in particular, I don't know what one of them means. There's Ms., there's Ms., there's Mrs., there's Mr., MR, and then there's MX. What is MX? What is the MX prefix? I don't know what that means. Oh, of course. All right. I just looked it up.
They,
MX,
them?
what?
They, them?
Whatever it is gender neutral. MX is gender neutral. It's a title for those who do not identify as being a part of a particular gender, or for people who simply don't want to be identified by their gender. Well, that might help my cause, because as a white guy, I don't think I have much of a chance here. And I'm doing that based on the fact that there's a big picture of Sharice Davids with 5 interns, and there's not a single white male of all the interns right now. So I'm already behind the 8 ball. So maybe if I put MX as my prefix, that might be my only chance.
Well, it would be inclusive to have you then.
Yeah. It would be diverse to have me as an intern, wouldn't it?
It should be.
Should be.
You would think.
The other prefix options, Reverend, Doctor, Rabbi, and the Honorable. I think I might, if I don't go with MX, I might go with the Honorable. That might be the best play for me. The Honorable Pete Mundo is applying to be an intern with Sharice Davids. Let's go to the next page. Oh, boy, there's a lot. There's 6 pages to fill out. Come on, would you just look at my damn prefix and call it a day and hire me already? I mean, what is this all about? Jeez. It's time for me to just get that internship and move on with my life. Some of you are going to be doing cartwheels. Get me out of here anyway. And for me, I guess I could go up to Capitol Hill and start making some noise up there as a Sharice Davids intern. It feels like it's the right move at the right time. So if you want this job, well, start applying because I'm on my way out the door. I'm going to Sharice Davids' office. I'm going to be an intern. And, it might be a big pay cut, but seems like it's the right time. I'm going to put Claire to work. She's going to be 5 in December anyway. Start making some money for this family. 913-408-7957. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Hope your trick-or-treating was good. I'm just thawing out here this morning still from last night. It is time to put an end to the hatred that is coming out of one group in this community, in the Kansas City Star. We'll tell you about that next. I guess when you have no actual reporters to, report on news, you just take any Tom, Dick, and Harry off the side of the road and say, hey, you want to write a guest column in the Kansas City Star? Sure, come on in. That's apparently what's going on now with that newspaper, because I read something yesterday. It was a guest column about the Stop Rezoning Prairie Village movement ahead of next week's local elections that was as disgraceful and, frankly, just as dumb as anything I've ever read. I essentially, and I'll share it with you here, and I'll share some backstory to this as well. But basically, if you are against a push in Prairie Village to just rezone residential to, from R1 to R3, R4. If you think it's wrong that people can build mini apartments in their backyards, well, you're just a racist. That's what you are. I mean, that was the moral of this story. So this was front page on the Star yesterday. I'm not sure if it still is today. I try to, limit the amount of time I spend on the website, at least on the homepage. But it's important to share this with you ahead of Tuesday because this is the kind of nastiness that is being promoted in local media that, by the way, is just all conflation and factually inaccurate stuff, where the Star gets to act like it is not promoting something, but conveniently puts in these guest commentaries, these guest columns that are nothing but hot garbage. And this one happened to be written by a guy named Sean Stewart. It says here Sean is a songwriter and a demographer in Kansas City. Perfect. Just songwriters, just the kind of people, you want to be opining on local zoning issues, right? I mean, that's cream of the crop right there. And by the way, I did invite Sean on this show yesterday, and I'll tell you what he said here at the end of the conversation. But I did reach out to him, and I cordially told him I'd like to have him on the show to talk about his column that I'm going to get to here, but he conveniently declined. So he writes here, by now you know what's going on in Prairie Village. They are probably the most hotly contested city council races in the entire region ahead of next week. And the big issue that's gotten regional attention is around the rezoning efforts. By now, you know that Prairie Village is, when it comes to density, it's the densest, if not one of the most densest municipalities in the entire state. It is obviously a community of single-family homes, and there's been a push to create more multifamily, air quote, affordable housing options in Prairie Village. And a lot of people who, have their largest asset, their home in Prairie Village, are like, this is ridiculous. We moved here because of what Prairie Village is. We don't want, understandably, multifamily buildings and complexes getting popped up in our backyard. We also don't want people, building sheds in their backyards and creating, rental opportunities on the other side of your fence. We don't want that. So a grassroots movement called Stop Rezoning Prairie Village came to be a little over a year ago. And they organized, and they have put people up for city council. And, I think that they'll have some good success next week. That being said, here's the guest column from someone who obviously disagrees with that. Name is Sean Stewart. And the Star just, publishes this. This is not like a radio show where you can call in, you can make your point for 60 seconds, and, we move on with the show. This is something that the Star willingly put in as guest commentary in their newspaper. Says here, how did Stop Rezoning Prairie Village, also known as PV United, get its start? You have probably seen the stop yard signs and heard a lot of racket coming from Prairie Village as we near the November election. A group was formed a year and a half ago to thwart the efforts of Prairie Village's Diversity Committee, which was exploring ways by which it could offer more attainable housing in a demographically monolithic city. Still reeling from the city passing an LGBTQ ordinance a few years earlier, the Stop contingent appeared determined to cede no more ground. An LGBTQ ordinance from years prior has nothing to do with this. Right out of the gates, it is setting the framework to disqualify these people as bigots. Shame on the Kansas City Star for allowing this to be printed that way. But once again, you're laying the foundation for lying about a group of people and what they actually believe. And then this guy writes, Sean Stewart, first a little about me. I was a longtime Republican back in the mid-'90s, blah, blah, blah. I, supported Dole and Graves and Kemp. But then since the Tea Party MAGA uprising, I've become an independent. Ah, yes, so independent. So, one of those, preface it with that nonsense. And then he writes here, before we tackle the movement, Stop Rezoning PV, we should also talk a little bit about Prairie Village itself. The city was established in concept and code by J.C. Nichols. Its zoning ordinances ensured that people of color could not own property in Prairie Village. There are many sources through which you can educate yourself on the role Nichols played in the systemic racism, which spread not just here but nationally. The people who are now rising in opposition to the efforts to establish some remediation of Nichols' trajectory are not bipartisan nor centrist as they contest. They emanate from an extreme right-wing group called Northeast Johnson County Conservatives. This is not your father's Republicans. The group attempted to thwart civil rights initiatives that Prairie Village codified for the tiny minority of non-binary folks in 2018. And they're hell-bent on not losing more ground to societal evolution this time with affordable housing considerations. This is such a bunch of BS. I've talked to all the people running on the Stop Rezoning PV movement. I don't know if they're Republicans or Democrats. I don't care. This is the thing. These local issues, when it comes to zoning in municipalities, are not your standard left-right issues. It doesn't matter who's pro-life. It doesn't matter what your thoughts are on abortion. This issue and these kinds of issues are the ones that make a difference in your local community. And they are not red, blue, right, left. They aren't. This guy, Sean Stewart, takes 4 paragraphs to basically lay the foundation on why the Stop Rezoning people are allegedly bigots and racists and secretly J.C. Nichols lovers or whatever. And that's why they should be discredited without actually talking about the issues. This is written like somebody in college, writing their final exam essay and doing it from an incredibly biased perspective. That's all this is. And the Star published this. The Star willingly put this in the newspaper. I know people who have reached out to the Star for guest commentaries on like a right of center perspective, and every single sentence they will go through with a fine-tooth comb and find reasons why it's wrong, why they can't have that sentence in there. But this guy, who, by the way, is a musician who just doesn't like this group and is a permanent social media troll, as I understand it from people in that community, I mean, he just lays it all out there. It's written like forget a college kid, it's written like a sophomore in high school who's got a bone to pick with somebody is all this is.
He had his list of buzzwords he worked in, got non-binary. And
yeah, he did.
Like that.
Yep, that's true. He goes on the right here. This is an extremist far-right goal and one not benefiting a forward-thinking community such as Prairie Village.
There was 5 more right there.
Yeah. There's a few more right there as well. If you had told me that the Northeast Johnson County Conservatives could mount a tenable effort to seat 6 far-right candidates in Prairie Village 3 years ago, I would have told you that you were making no sense. Prairie Village was the city with Love Wins and BLM signs. Heck, it even hosted a march during the George Floyd summer. Ah, yes, the summer of love. You got to love the summer of love. But that's where we are. 6 Prairie Village candidates were sought, and most were registered in time to run for the sole purpose of opposing people who had the gall to consider exploring ways to improve the J.C. Nichols legacy. God, I mean, what was this guy paid by, the references to J.C. Nichols? Is that what he was paid for here? This is ridiculous. There's nothing here about defending why Prairie Village residents should accept their neighbors who want to put effectively rentals in their own backyards. There's nothing here defending why Prairie Village residents who have invested, life savings into property in that community should be A-OK with a 4-story apartment complex going on in their backyard. It's just basically, racist, bigot, J.C. Nichols. Did I mention racist, bigot, J.C. Nichols? Rinse, repeat. And the Star put this in as a guest commentary. So I emailed Mr. Sean yesterday, and I thought it was a polite email. I wrote, "Hi, Sean. I saw your article in the Star on Stop Rezoning PV. I wanted to invite you on my show to discuss your article. I'm open tomorrow morning if you have time, or any other morning this week. We're on 6 to 10 a.m. Let me know if anything could work." And Sean writes back here, staying very much on brand. "Thanks so much for the invitation. Tomorrow is no good. And frankly, I outgrew the Rush Limbaugh tribe 30 years ago. But Rush did have great bumper music. I figured you might want some too. So consider playing any of the songs I have in my catalog."
What a tool.
I know.
Knew it was coming.
I know.
Oh, come on if you play my songs.
Yeah. And then he says, "Oh, and let me just ask, since I heard that you seem pretty pro-stop rezoning, what are your thoughts on J.C. Nichols excluding people of color from home ownership in Prairie Village? And how do you think that correlates to the vast demographic disparities between adjacent cities, Prairie Village and Kansas City, that we still see today?" Now, I'm happy to answer that question, by the way. So I just wrote back. I said, "Sean, I'd be happy to answer your questions on my show this week. No Rush Limbaugh shtick here, just a guy talking local issues with the people of Kansas City. I'd like to converse on the issue and allow you time to expand on your stance. If you're able to find a 10-minute window anytime this week, the door is open. Thanks so much." I'm a class act. I'm not going to be a wise guy in response. I can do that 4 hours every day if I want to. Needless to say, I didn't get a response on that one because it was, frankly, probably not what he expected. He thought I was going to come back and be like, "Oh,
this is absolutely lit. This is lit, 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 lit."
He probably thought I was going to be like fire breathing in return. It's like, nah, bro, just here to talk about some local stuff and figured you might have the backbone to defend your 700 words of vomit that was in the Star yesterday, but apparently not. So all I can do is invite people on and offer them a fair shake. But if you can hide behind the editors at the Star and allow them to do your bidding for you, then, why defend it with words that might upset some other people? Why bother? 913-408-7957 is we roll towards 8 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. Great to have you here. So would you ever go back to Bud Light? I'm asking you this because Bud Light, there's a new report, thinks that you will come back to them. I put this up on my social media pages yesterday. I'll share some of your responses and also squeeze in some of your calls here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. I just want to know if you have any plans on coming back to Bud Light. And I ask this because they think you're coming back. 913-408-7957. Yesterday, Bud Light announced its revenue growth. And Bud Light said its revenues as a company climbed 5%. That is globally, of course. That was in line with Wall Street's estimates. But revenue in the U.S. dropped 13.5%. What was that driven by? Well, the Bud Light debacle, of course. So Bud Light is down 29% still. This is in the 4 weeks ending October 21st. So this is now consistent. Bud Light's been about down 30% for the better part of 6 months. And it all ties back to, the moronic decision from the marketing team to do a campaign with Dylan Mulvaney. Now, remember, this was not, and I'm just going to reiterate this in case you're new and you're checking out the show, this was not for those of, I can't say I joined the boycott because I never drank Bud Light unless I was at a game, and that was the only option. But it was not about an anti-trans thing on Dylan Mulvaney. It was the easiest way to push back against corporate America that many traditional Americans were just fed up with corporate America feeding them politics that they never asked for, feeding them political things that were not in line with their beliefs. And when your Bud Light and your major and average consumer is, Heartland, Middle America, guys, probably leaning right, more traditional in nature, that was a huge mistake and a huge misstep. And it backfired on them in a big way because there was so much competition. There is so much competition for Bud Light that people were like, you know what? I can drop my Bud Light and replace it very easily. So that's what I'm going to do. But Bud Light yesterday, their CEO, AB InBev CEO Michael Ducaris, said yesterday that the company believes it can win back many who have stopped consuming Bud Light. And he said what they're doing in their U.S. marketing is they're focused on more traditional outlets like college football and concerts. Wow, what enough? How about you just stick to what worked? Oh, these marketing people. They think they're the smartest ones in the room, and they're actually the biggest idiots. And now they've got to spend billions of dollars to try to win back customers. And by the way, their profits are down. Their revenues were up, but their pre-tax profits were down big time, 29% in the third quarter, because they've got to try to spend all this money now in marketing to win back these customers. So they're focused on college football, concerts. They have their new multi-year partnership with UFC, mixed martial arts. Oh, guys, this was not difficult. This was not difficult. I mean, these people who have these advanced degrees, these PhDs in marketing and masters in marketing from Ivy League schools, just come out here to Kansas City. We'll take care of you at a fraction of the cost and tell you where you should be spending your money. We have more people listening right now that were regular Bud Light consumers pre-April than all these marketing executives at Bud Light had met in their lives. Never mind that they interacted with on a daily basis on their college campuses, at Ivy League institutions and in New York and L.A., but that's, I guess, beside the point. So they said that their efforts are bearing fruit. They said brands like Michelob Ultra and Busch Light fell just over 36% in April, but they're starting to bounce back. They think that they can get back people to Bud Light. So I posed this question to you on Facebook yesterday, and we got dozens of comments on the Facebook page. This one from Tom is my favorite. It's written like a letter is written to an X. It's very entertaining. Here's what Tom wrote on the Facebook page. He writes, "Dear Anheuser-Busch, I was loyal to you." It's literally written like you'd write to an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend. "I was loyal to you. I purchased your product for over 45 years. I bought your swag and promotional products. I recommended your product to friends. My father drank your beer going back to the 1940s. You betrayed me," he writes in all caps. "I will never give you my hard-earned money again. You have crossed a line and lost my business."
How dare you?
That was Tom on the Facebook page yesterday, making it clear he's never going back. Tell me, InBev CEO Michael Ducaris, how you're winning back Tom. I'm not sure you can. News is coming up in a minute. We're back with you on KCMO Talk Radio. Missouri's getting a bad rap for having teachers on OnlyFans. There's another one to tell you about. We'll get to it next.